Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Nimrod Pod. I am your embattled host, Lou Stump, alongside my brother-in-arms, Chet Lifkit. Make sure that you are following at the Nimrod Pod on X, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and at Nimrod Pod on YouTube and Instagram. Like and share this episode to start the chain reaction, and leave a comment letting us know what you think of the show. Now, we have a very special guest joining us today. He is a Republican candidate running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Florida's 11th District. He is not a career politician. He's running as a regular American citizen that wants to improve the everyday lives of his constituents. He is putting we the people before his party. And most importantly, he is America first. Not Israel first, not Qatar first, not China first, genuinely America first. And it is for this reason he has the Nimrod stamp of approval. So please welcome to the program, Mike Wilnau. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. It's our pleasure. I want to start off by giving you the floor and giving you a chance to share your background with our audience. You know, how did you go from a blue-collar kid growing up in Central Florida to a U.S. congressional candidate? Tell us a little bit about that process.
So I'm running for Congress because I'm really concerned about the trajectory of our country. Really about the country that our kids and our grandkids are going to inherit from us. You know, when you scroll on social media, man, it feels like the world's on fire. You know, so I just have to ask, where are we going to be in, 2 years? What about 5, 10? What about 50? And I think that there's really an inconvenient truth that we have to face. There are tens of millions, if not more, of Americans scattered across this country who are just ready for it to burn down. And it's not because they hate America, but because they've lost hope. They've lost trust in our systems, and they've given up on the American dream. And I don't blame them, because not too long ago, I was one of those people. Until one night, I have 4 kids, but I looked into my little 3-year-old son's eyes, and I really realized something that changed me forever. Nobody's coming to save us. And we can't keep sitting on the couch waiting on the fire department when the house is burning down around us. Let me ask you something. If you smell smoke and you see fire, that means there's a fire. Right? So if you get off the couch, call 911, are you going to go sit back down and wait for them to come and save you? Or are you going to get your ass out of the house? That's where we are right now. And nobody's going to fight for us the way that we're going to fight for each other. So the way that I see it, why not me? Why not you? Why not now? Because really, at the end of the day, what we do or what we don't do, it's going to be remembered forever.
It's really profound. What was your red pill moment?
So my red pill moment, it's funny you asked that. It was actually in 2008. My dad took out a loan against our house in 2006 to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a business owner in the construction industry. And when my dad was 17, he joined the Marine Corps to get out of a bad family situation. And so he served over in Vietnam, and his entire life was just trying to scrape up enough money just to get by after that. So in 2007, he finally got enough money to start his business, and he took that step out, and then the market crashed. And I just remember the look on my dad's face in that year, from going from excitement and happiness and hope and believing that he finally had his piece of the American dream on his plate. And then they took it away because of bad policy. That was my red pill moment. I was 10 years old, and I've been hooked ever since on how do we as normal people prevent stuff like that from happening? And the truth is, man, we're not represented. 250 years ago, 56 men committed an act of treason against the crown, against the King of England. And they didn't do it just for themselves. They did it for us. People that they never even thought of once, people who they never even conceived in their mind of ever existing. Not as individuals, of course. But we are their posterity. We are the future generations that they fought for. They risked their lives. They risked their comfort. They risked their wealth. Everything. They risked everything for a very low likelihood of winning. I'm glad they won. But let's be honest, the odds were stacked up against them. So who am I? Who are you? Who are we to say that fight's not worth fighting today? Because I believe the stakes are just as high as they were back then. So it's going to take normal people deciding that we can't keep waiting on somebody else to come and save us, because it's not happening. It's not coming. It is us.
I love that. I mean, that'll radicalize anybody. We are under the control of a satanic, deep state, blackmail network that wants to impoverish us. They want to oppress us. And that's a really dark thing. And you're stepping into the arena with some extremely dangerous people. Like, you're running for political office is a major sacrifice, especially for a 27-year-old guy with a young family. So how did your Christian faith influence your decision to run for office? Like, what's your why?
Well, it's huge. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for my faith. Because really, I mean, you look at it, I'm not the type of person who should be doing this historically. Looking back on the type of people who run for office, I'm not that guy. It's kind of turned into, you have to be um, a career politician. You have to be some sort of celebrity. You have to be independently wealthy, a millionaire, CEO, an attorney. And I'm none of those things. I'm a mechanic, and I fix things for a living. Through prayer is where I really decided this is what I had to do. And it wasn't my decision. It was my decision to trust and to obey and to follow God. Because I really believe that unless you can follow God, you can't lead men. I think that's really a reflection of where we are right now, because we are being led, as you said, controlled by a psychopathic, pedophile, satanic cult. That's really what's going on right now. You think back on history, things that work last, things that work well last, and division and fear are the two most effective tactics for control. If you control the food, you control the people. If you control people's fear, control everything. So, when you say that, it's really true. But what do we know about fear? It's one of the things that's repeated the most in the Bible. I think it's number one in the Bible. Be not afraid. So what does that tell us? Fear doesn't come from God. So when you're afraid to do something, when you're afraid to stand up and do the right thing, even though you know within you that it's what you have to do because somebody has to do it, right? That's all the more reason to do it, because that's just the enemy telling you not to. It's a deception. It's a lie. It's deception.
100%. You're only supposed to fear God and nothing else.
Yes.
Jesus Christ commands us to be radical. He wants us to leave an everlasting legacy. I think you're barking up the right tree. My next question for you is, how would you describe your political platform? Like, what are the key pillars of your message, of your campaign, of your plan in Congress?
Well, number one, it's America first. That's non-negotiable. There is no question about that. I think that really what kind of sets me apart from the rest of the people who typically do run for political office is the career politicians are the one that got us into this mess. And I promise they won't be the ones to get us out. The incentive structure is not there for them to actually be effective. We don't have actual representation in Washington, D.C., not for us. I truly believe that the only people in the United States of America today who have representation, true representation, are the lobbyists, both foreign and domestic. And that's completely unacceptable. That's not what this is all set up for. That's not why we're here. But it is why we're here to fix it. We can't let things that have become the status quo remain just because we're afraid of change or we're afraid of messing up somewhere along the way. But it's really not enough to just name the problem. It's not enough to sit around and complain. I'm actually kind of developing carpal tunnel in my thumb from all the bitching I do on X. No, we need mass deportations. That's non-negotiable. I think that we need a complete and total immigration moratorium. The H-1B scam. It is a scam. It's completely immoral, and it's the way that I see it is blue collar labor is affected by illegal immigration, and white collar labor is affected by legal immigration. And look, I can have sympathy, or I can empathize with the hardworking man from Guatemala who just wants a better life, because listen, I do too. but I want a better life for my kids' generation. I want a better life for my generation. Believe it or not, man, when you start having kids, you start thinking about retiring. Okay. And I'd like to be able to retire someday. That's the American dream. I think that, our friend James Fishback says it's, getting a job, buying a house, having kids, getting married, and
Retiring with dignity.
He says it way better than I do, but he's also said it more than I have. But no, he's right. Those are the core tenets of the American dream. And until every single American in this country is living out that American dream, we can't prioritize anyone else. America first means Americans first, and that is non-negotiable. So until, like I said, every American is living out the American dream, I'm sorry. I can feel bad for you. I understand, but work on your own country. Fix things where you are, because you're affecting the lives of the people here. We can't have that. But beyond that, kind of going back to my platform specifically, I think that we need to make AIPAC register under FARA and then ban foreign lobbying. Our elected officials who serve the interests of a foreign government are committing treason. And I want to make a commitment to you guys. Since this is being recorded, if I ever act in the interest of a foreign government, whether it's Qatar, Argentina, or Israel, try me for treason. And the Constitution lays out what the punishment for that crime is very clearly. And I choose death over dishonor. I will never serve the interests of a foreign government, ever. And we need term limits. And the future of this country can't be decided by the residents of Green Acres Retirement Home. Washington, D.C. isn't a retirement village. I mean, it is, but it shouldn't be. We cannot continue to let people decide the future of this country who aren't going to be living in it. That's really what it is. They're not going to have to live with the effects of the bad policy that they push, the negligence. It's going to be us. It's going to be our generation. It's going to be our kids and our grandkids who are going to suffer the most. And they're just going to have a nice life and retire. Is that what it is? It's unacceptable. Beyond that, I'd really like to ban congressional stock trading. Public service, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, or it shouldn't be anyways. That's what it's turned into. It's turned into, how do I, as a representative, squeeze the most juice out of this fruit before I throw it away? It's turned into a get-rich-quick scheme for people who were too lazy or stupid to earn a living the honest way. And we can't accept that as Americans. I think that every person who has covered up and served the interests of their donors or their friends who frequented Pedo Island need to meet the same fate that the others deserve. I'm 100% committed to justice for the victims and rooting out and destroying the evil that has just completely entrenched itself in our world. I believe that this is a battle between good and evil and light and darkness. And this is a battle for the soul of our nation. That's what I believe.
Clearly, you want to break the system. If I could summarize your platform in 3
Absolutely.
words, I would say drain the swamp. What MAGA
Yeah,
should
that
have
actually-
been, but didn't actually end up happening.
Yeah.
So you mentioned
Drain
your...
the swamp, but actually for real.
Amen, brother. You mentioned your buddy, James Fishback. You have very similar platforms. Could you name a sitting congressman that you model your platform on?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I haven't met any of these people in person, so I don't know what they actually believe in. It's hard to say, because with politics, a lot of times it's just theater, and they don't actually mean the things that they say. Every Republican runs on pretty much the same platform, especially in the last decade. It's been God, guns, freedom, Trump. And I'm not running on any of those things. Obviously, I believe in those things. I believe in God. I believe in guns. I believe in freedom. But that's not what this is all about. Of course, those are baked into the cake. But I think that specifically one congressman who I would really like to meet is Thomas Massey. I think that he has stood out, and he's stood on principle. And he has really, truly been the only one at some times who has stood up against the swamp, who has stood up against the uniparty. And whether you agree with everything that he says or not, obviously we're not going to agree on everything. I can't name anything that I don't agree with him on. I'm just saying hypothetically, of course. But whether you agree with him on everything or not, You have to admire that.
I have a quick question, Mike. So
Yeah,
you
of course.
say the sitting members of Congress, they'll get up and say whatever they can to get the votes, but they don't actually mean it.
Of
And
course not.
my question to you is how can you show our listeners and your future voters that you do mean what you say, that you're different from those people sitting in Congress? What differentiates you?
Well, number one is I live with the results of bad policy every day. Most of these people have never had to work for a living. Most of these people have never had to be on the receiving end of the bad policy that gets pushed out of Washington. Um, they've never had to decide between paying the light bill or buying your kids Christmas presents. And I've had to do that before. Times were tough. I had my first kid at 19. Um, totally not on purpose, but wouldn't change it for the world. And it was a struggle, between working two full-time jobs just to make ends meet and then still struggle at the end of it, you know? For me, it's not about getting there. It's not about being a congressman. It's not about the prestige that comes along with that because for a lot of these people that's all it's about. It's about ego and money. And I don't care about any of that. None of that's what I'm doing this for. For me, it means too much. So I would say if I do earn the votes of the people of Florida's 11th congressional district, which I hope I will, and I believe that I will, give me one term. And if I don't prove myself after one term, I won't even run again. If I don't feel that I've been effective, I will not run again because I want to give the right person the right chance, even if it's not.
In order to drain the swamp, Mike, you have to stick your head under the water and hold your breath. So you're going to have to pick and choose who you hang around, who you spend your time with. And I think Thomas Massie would be a great ally to have. Now, speaking of sitting congressmen, could you tell us a little bit about your primary opponent, the entrenched incumbent Daniel Webster?
Yeah, well, I can tell you a lot about Daniel Webster. Daniel Webster was first elected to public office back in 1979, almost 30 years before I was born. And he's been in office for 50 years. He is the epitome of an entrenched career politician. He's not a bad person. I don't think so. I don't think he's an evil politician. I don't think he's going to be in the Epstein files. I don't know. They haven't all been redacted yet. We'll see. Um, but he is one of those people who is a representation of a system that we all stand against, a system that has perverted the American way, a system that has taken advantage of the people of this country for far too long. When he first took office in 1979, and I was in the state house, it was in the state of Florida. He was the Florida House of Representatives. Our national debt at the time was less than $1 trillion. Today, it's going to be $41 trillion by the end of the year. That's what most estimates say. It might even hit 42. Who knows? Um, so I don't think that we can accept that. Like I said, Congress, public service is not an opportunity for you to just sit there and waste people's votes over and over and over again, because that's really what it ends up. So for that $41 trillion of debt, sorry, I kind of bounced around for a second there, but I'll get back to that. He's voted for almost every single spending increase in the last 10 years. So I put that on him. If you're just going to be a safe red vote, I don't want you. If you're not going to be somebody who's willing to stand up and rock the boat, I don't want you. He's not that guy. He's not that person. He's not pushing policy that's going to reform how things are done here. He's not pushing policy that's going to put America first. He's not pushing policy that's going to restore American sovereignty away from the foreign nations that have infiltrated our ranks.
So Webster has been in office for over 40 years, and he is about 49 years older than you. So what's your message to voters that are concerned about your inexperience?
Well, I would say that my inexperience is in not taking money from donors. My lack of experience is in not taking money from foreign governments. My inexperience is in not being controlled by the party. The truth is that it really just means too much. I know I've said that before, but I'm going to say it again. It means too much. This isn't a hard job. Okay. It's really not. It's really not a hard job. And we're not sending our best. We are not sending our best. The truth is, even before I decided to run for Congress, I had started to research how to write legislation. I can tell you one thing for certain. There's not a single member of Congress right now who's ever written a bill on their own. They don't. Their number one job is fundraising. My job is going to be putting America first and changing the incentive structure in Congress to actually reflect the interests of the people of this country.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I'm going to pull up trackapac.com. We're going to look at this website. Okay. If I take a look at your opponent, the incumbent, Daniel Webster, $58,097 received from the pro-Israel lobby. So, Mike, my question to you, I think you already answered it. Have you received campaign donations from any lobbies or PACs?
I have not taken any money. Actually, that's not true. I took $1,000 from AZAPAC, which is the Anti-Zionist of America Political Action Committee, which is direct opposition to AIPAC. And with that, it's not a commitment to anything except for not taking money from Israel.
Love it. How do you think we can take the money out of politics?
With campaign finance reform and a lot of kicking and screaming. These politicians, man, it's what they do. It's the reason that they're there. That's why we have to change the incentive structure, like I said. It's the only way to do it. The idea, so Citizens United, I was reading up on this a little bit more today. Citizens United versus FEC, it gave corporations personhood. It gave them rights. And included in those rights is a First Amendment right to political campaign donations. Does that make sense? That's insanity. Like I said before, the only people in this country who have representation are the lobbyists, foreign and domestic, and that includes corporate PACs. You can't have that.
Amen. A big reason I wanted to have you on the show is to discuss Webster's rumored retirement plans. You posted on X that you've been told he's going to wait to announce his retirement until the end of the qualifying window. Can you get our audience up to speed on this situation?
Yeah, sure. So Daniel Webster, longtime incumbent, he is part of the Republican Party establishment. And with that comes party control. So I think that they have seen me in the movement that I'm a part of. And they know that we are in direct opposition to them and what they stand for. Because we stand for America first, and they don't. They can't have that. So what's going to happen, from what I understand, from what I've been told, and I'm not going to name any names, but it is a very reliable source, Daniel Webster is going to wait to announce his retirement until the week of qualifying. And at that point, he's going to endorse my primary opponent, whoever that may be, and they are going to flood the zone with TV ads, with billboards, with mailers, with campaign flyers, with signs, and they're going to blast this guy everywhere with the full power of the Republican Party establishment and a full purse of campaign funds. This is in direct opposition to what this country was founded on. And that's the American people having a voice and a say in how things go. And if that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will. But this isn't unique. This isn't unique to my district. This isn't unique to the state of Florida. This happens all across the country. I know a lot of people don't usually pay attention to the primaries. I think more people are going to pay attention to the primaries this year than ever before, because I think they really understand the importance of it now. I certainly do. But this happens every year, every election year. Every time that there is moves happening, they control it, or they do their best to. Or we're going to do our best to change that.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think the black-pilled online right needs to open their eyes and start taking the primary elections a lot more seriously. We can't just worry about taking down the libs, beating the Democrats when we have all these entrenched rhinos as our Republican GOP candidates. And that I've pretty much put all of my energy and effort in my small little social media empire into finding grassroots America First candidates and trying to amplify their message. And I'm disappointed, to say the very least, in the alt-right independent media's inability to platform candidates like you. I've only seen one podcast or interview online with you in it. And your social media, you're basically a guy with a headshot who's saying a lot of really good things, but nobody knows you. And I think that's a problem, and it's not your fault. Like you already took the risk. You're sacrificing everything, and you need a platform. And I think this is a great first step to get you introduced, at least to our audience. And this just came to mind. I'm going to give you some live feedback from just a random guy on the internet. I think you need to start picking up your phone, pressing record, and dumping your thoughts onto the internet and letting your constituents know, hey, I'm a real person. Here's my face. Or you look at the Grok algorithm. If you ask Grok, how do I get more engagement on X? It's like, show your face, visuals, put yourself on camera. I think that's going to be huge. And again, these primaries could make or break the future of our constitutional republic. So not to hijack that conversation, I do want to go back. So let's say that President Trump is made aware of Webster's plans to retire. Why should Trump endorse you as Webster's successor? Like, what is your message to President Trump?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. So you're going to see more of my face on the internet now.
Love it. Hey, you're saying all the right things, man. Just got to get the message out.
To answer your question, though, I don't think that President Trump would. I don't think that he will. And that's not because I'm saying the wrong things. It's not because I have the wrong beliefs. But if I were to make a pitch to him, I would say, President Trump, whether you know it or not, these people that are on your side aren't actually on your side. They don't believe in the things that you campaigned on. I do. I'm here to not just put America first, not just drain the swamp, but restore the American dream. That's what we're doing this for. If not, what's the point? That's what I would say to the president. Nothing else.
Fuck yeah. Love it. Let's get into the issues. First policy I want to cover is immigration. My question to you, can we have mass deportations without violence?
I think we can, and I think we have to. I don't think it's an option. We have estimates between 30, 50, even upwards of 80 million people in this country illegally. It's time to get them out. And I think that a lot of the reaction to the ICE operations is because for the first time it's being recorded and blasted on the internet. I think that it was kind of foolish, for the ICE Twitter page to start doing like hype videos. Like, come on, like you don't have to do that. Move in silence, be effective, do it quietly, and we will notice the difference. We will notice the results. When there's 100 houses in your hometown that open up and they're for sale or they're for rent, you can afford it again. People are going to notice. We don't need the hype videos. Just do your job. So yeah, absolutely. We absolutely can, and we absolutely have to get them all out. It's non-negotiable.
We're in a bit of a tricky situation. Never in history have we had tens of millions of illegals sneak across our border against the law and completely unchecked. So,
well, they didn't sneak in; they were let in.
Great point. They were let in. We have all these undocumented foreign invaders, most of which are military-age men entrenched throughout our communities, and there's a lot of people. This is not my opinion. I'm trying to steal, man. There's a lot of people that think you can't put the cookies back in the jar, at least not over the next 3 years. Trump's deportation numbers last year were embarrassing. He tried to claim that he had some of the most in history, but the number was inflated because he was counting people that were turned away at the border. I'm very disappointed with the way he's backtracked. And you could argue that we were never going to get mass deportations because he said, we're going to go after the criminals first. Criminals first means amnesty. Criminals first means we're going to go get all the criminals and then we'll get to everybody else later. He's also a proponent of the H-1B program and golden visas. So I'm going to give you my solution to the illegal immigration problem, and then I want to get your feedback. So I think I break it up into two segments. We have economic levers and we have forceful levers. On the economic levers, we have ban corporations from hiring illegals, ban welfare and benefits for illegals, deny citizenship for illegals, eliminate birthright citizenship for illegals, because we let all these people in
100%.
and we don't let them become citizens, but then we let their children become citizens. And we're not having kids ourselves as heritage Americans. The Democrats will have an everlasting voting bloc, and we will lose our country and our heritage. And the last thing on the economic levers, as you said, implement an immigration moratorium. No people in, no legals, no illegals, no golden visas, no H-1B visas. Nobody is allowed in our country, at the very least, until we sort through all the shit that we're dealing with here, all the millions and millions of invaders that we have spread across our country. We need to get them out before we can even think about lifting an immigration moratorium. And I'm so disappointed that President Trump hasn't done so yet. So notice how these economic levers do not require ICE. But President Trump hasn't pulled on any of these strings. Now, I also think we need the forceful levers. I think we need to invoke the Insurrection Act and send in the 101st Airborne to protect ICE. I think you saw once the Minnesota National Guard started assisting ICE, they were able to be a lot more effective without as much pushback, believe it or not. And the last thing is arrest Minnesota leadership, deep state indictments, accountability. I'm talking about the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and mayor. You got to cut off the head of the Hydra. And if all that fails, the economic levers, the forceful levers, quarantine Minnesota and let the issue sort itself out organically. So, Mike, do you support implementing all of these policies?
Well, listen, Lou, I think you just solved the problem, man. I think you need to be running for office. What the hell are you doing on a podcast, bro?
I actually
No,
have a. Go ahead. That's all
Okay.
right.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, like these are common sense solutions. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense that these things haven't been done yet. It makes no sense at all unless the incentive structure is not set up for them to actually fix the problem. Because let's be honest, immigration is a GOP talking point that they have had for decades, and I think that they campaign on it. I think they raise funds on it, and they generate interest and they generate support based off of that. But I would say to them, why don't you just fix the problem, and then people are going to reward you for fixing the problem, right? So, in their effort to maintain that string that they can use to pull every now and then, when it's fundraising or re-election time, they are shorting themselves by just being totally ineffective. And I think that goes back to, again, changing the incentive structure for these people. But no, I agree with everything that you said.
Awesome. Chet, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. So it was just based on that comment that Lou should be running for office. So one of the things that I believe about this country is that the reason we're moving in the wrong direction politically is because liberals, neocons, and elite families are the only ones that are pushing their children to get into politics. They're the only ones with the nepotism edge right now. I think that conservative families push their children to be honest people and not politicians. And so they end up in blue collar work or going to college or working at a corporation. And that's why we're losing. So I respect the fact that you're taking a stand and getting into politics in a space where not a lot of people are, especially in our age group and demographic. What's your message to other people that might even be considering it right now or looking at it? Because at this point, it seems like we're at the front end of a America First cultural revolution between Gen Z and millennials. And all it takes is more people to stand up and it'll create a chain reaction. What's your message to folks like that?
Fight for the future that you want your kids to have. Nobody's going to do it for you. It has to be you. It's not based on where you come from. It's not based on the zip code you grew up in. It's based on if you believe that you can do it or not. You have to. It can be done because it has to be done. You're right. We are in the beginning of an America First, Gen Z millennial revolution, a revolution of ideas. And I'm so proud to be a part of it. I'm glad you guys are part of it too. This isn't going away. This is the future of this country. And we're going to fight for what we believe in. I want plumbers running for office. I want pastors running for president. I don't want any more attorneys. I don't want any more attorneys. But I want honest people to be the ones making the decisions. You know, my dad used to say to me that there's more honest men in our hometown, more good men in our hometown than there are in the entirety of our nation's capital. And I believe that. My God, what if the man who owns the AC company ran for Congress? What if the young guy who he's an electrician? What if he goes and runs for city council? Because it does start at that lower level. It really does. So I everywhere that I go, I try to get those people to understand that it's not that there's nothing that you can do. It's just that there's nothing that you are doing. And that's when the complaining on the internet, the Twitter thumbs giving you carpal tunnel because you're whining all day. It's not enough. You have to step up. You have to take action. And the Bible calls us to be people of action, to be guided by prayer, but then to go stand up and do what God tells you to do. That's what I did. That's what I'm doing every step that I take. I said at the beginning of this, I don't know where this leads me to. I don't know what the end goal is. I could go back to turning wrenches or I could be the president in 10 years. I have no idea, but I'm going to follow God every step of the way. He's going to tell me where he wants me to go. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Great answer. It's like the story of the man in the arena. You just got to step in, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah, I absolutely envy you, Mike, to be completely honest. I'm younger than you. I cannot afford to run for office, but I would if I could, and I know I will one day. And I took the red pill some time ago, and I have not been able to look back. And that's why we started this podcast. Chet and I have people very close to us that were impacted by chronic disease and the COVID pandemic and basically all the bullshit that the federal government has thrown at us. And maybe one day me and Mike can share a beer and I can tell you a little bit more about my personal situation. Sure. I absolutely love your platform, and I want to move on to healthcare. I'm kind of going to pepper you with a bunch of different issues that are important to me. And this one in particular should hit close to home, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're not super familiar. So the opiate crisis. Florida averages over 7,000 annual drug overdose deaths, which are predominantly opioid involved. And Marion County, which I believe is where you live, has the second highest drug overdose death rate in the state of Florida, which is, again, primarily opioid driven. So what specific steps can you take in Congress to protect your constituents from the opioid epidemic?
Yeah, so I think number one, we have to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable. Most of those deaths, most of those opioids are prescription drugs. I do know that. Right now they have immunity. They're not accountable for anything. That has to change. We have to hold those companies, those billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies accountable because they are poisoning our people who otherwise would have led happy, productive, successful lives.
Is the MAHA movement important to you? Like, obviously you're talking about big pharma and the absolute corruption in the system. And when it comes to opioids, the reason it's such a problem is because insurance companies incentivize private practices to push pills. They will give you money for selling more opioids and getting more people addicted. In some cases, if you're prescribing certain surgeries or procedures and you don't also prescribe pain pills, the insurance companies will not fulfill the bill that you send them for the surgery or the procedure that you're doing on their client. So the entire system is completely sick and completely broken. I'm going to parlay this into something that you may not be familiar with, but it
Can I
should
say
be
one thing
important.
real quick? Can I
Hop
say
right
one
in.
thing real quick about insurance
right in.
companies?
Yes.
So my goal with medical care is to break up the monopolies, to enforce price transparency, and then from there to uncap health savings accounts, which are transferable and tax-free. By doing that, I've done the numbers on this. By doing that, we'll make insurance so affordable in this country that you won't need insurance. So there won't be that problem. I would like to make healthcare so affordable in this country that insurance is a thing of the past.
I love that. I'm extremely pro Maha. I mean, it might be a stupid term because it's associated with Trump, but RFK Jr. is someone. Say whatever you want about Israel and his involvement there, and maybe whatever was going on with his wife and Epstein. Now that we see the most recent file release, this guy has been fighting the medical establishment for so long, and I think medical freedom is extremely important. Are you pro Maha? Do you drink raw milk? Where like do you care about cleaning up the water supply and taking the poison out of the food?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite at raw milk yet, but we do have chickens. We have 9 chickens. My wife made me build the chicken coop. We have
Perfect.
chickens. But no, I'm fully in favor of Maha. I think that it's insane that these companies are allowed to put these poisons in our food, and they call it food coloring, right? These preservatives that they put in baby formula, but it's lead and it's arsenic. It's mind blowing that that's allowed here, and it's really only here that it's allowed. I feel like capitalism is such a great thing when it's not being abused, but the incentive is for it to be abused. Let's be honest. In the quest to maximize their profits, they're killing people, and that's insane. Yeah, I'm all for the free market. I really am, but there has to be restrictions. There has to be oversight.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I live in Florida. I drink tap water. We got some springs around the house. No, we got the best water in the state right here where I live, and the tap water is good. I get it tested regularly. But no, I care about clean water. I care about clean food, and I care about a medical system that benefits the people and not just the profits.
Yeah, I think it's important to make traditional medicine affordable. I think that's what you're referring to. But traditional medicine for emergency care, I think a big problem is people that want to take a holistic approach to their health. It is extremely unaffordable to pursue alternative medicine. And I think there's a ton of white space for the legislature to come together and give Americans subsidies that they can spend on making their lives healthier. I think you can create some sort of Maha subsidy where you can purchase supplements. You can get a comprehensive blood panel to look at all of your biomarkers holistically and figure out where are your deficiencies and then supplement to your deficiencies. You go to the traditional doctor, they tell you have high cholesterol, they give you a bunch of statins, and then you jack up your whole system. When in reality, you might just not be getting enough iodine, or your zinc levels might be low. You have to look at your body holistically. You need to go to the gym. You need to try a keto diet if you have cancer. Don't do all the different extremely invasive treatments like chemo and radiation. There's so many different ways to do it. What do you think we could do to make alternative medicine more affordable, to make healthy lifestyles and organic foods and fresh natural foods more affordable?
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that before, but that's a really good idea. I like the idea of supplementing that because it's become like a luxury, to be able to choose your medical care, to be able to choose the approach that you take has become a luxury, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that one deserves to be pushed and the other, to be kind of pushed to the backside. So I think that's a great idea. I really do like that. I'm going to think about it just a little bit more. I haven't thought about it at all, honestly. So I wouldn't know what to say. But I do think that's a good idea, and I am going to think about it. I'm going to work.
Awesome. I'm glad I put it on your radar. Like Chet and
thank you.
I are younger than you, and we spend all of our money on food and living a healthy lifestyle. And we have nothing left after we do that. And I
We're
mean,
good for you guys.
it is funny, and a lot of normies will think we're stupid, but in reality, I'm just picking the highest quality food, and I'm getting supplements to improve my health, to avoid getting chronically ill, and then taking hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix myself down the road, and in decreasing my health span, not my lifespan, my health span. How long am I healthy and available for my family? That's something I think about a lot. So I appreciate you entertaining that question. So next, Florida is the number 3 state for kratom consumption in the United States. Again, you might not be familiar with kratom. Florida's opioid-related death count, however, has drastically improved with the rise of kratom. Florida is one of 19 states to pass the Kratom Consumers Protection Act. It's the KCPA. I don't know if you know anything about kratom, but would you consider protecting the buying, selling, consumption, and safe regulation of kratom from the federal level?
Is it saving people?
Yes. Trump's
Yeah.
drug czar in his first administration, there was a federal bill to potentially ban kratom. And they ultimately
I remember.
decided it would do much more harm than good, because all these people that were addicted to opiates and pain pills would stop doing kratom, and they would go back to the opiates. Essentially, it's this plant that targets the opiate receptor in your brain. It is not an opiate. 7-0, you might have heard of, completely different than kratom. I can get into that. And it's non-addictive, and you can't OD on it. So essentially, it quiets that part of your brain if you were a former addict without any of these side effects. It is a plant that has been used for centuries in Southeast Asia by the indigenous population. They don't, drinking's not a big thing in their culture. So at nighttime, they will take larger quantities to kind of relax, and it acts as a social lubricant. It can relieve pain. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all your troubles. And then during the day, they'll actually chew on the leaf. If you take it at lower doses, it acts as a stimulant. Kratom is blowing up, especially in Florida, and there's a kratom shop on every single corner in certain areas. So I think that's something to think about, and I think especially Central Florida, kratom is big, and there's there's obviously a significant opioid issue in Florida that's getting a lot better, and I've seen it get better with kratom, and there is mounting regulatory pressure against kratom, so I could see this coming to the floor. So consider
Sure.
this something maybe to look into for your constituents.
Yeah, for sure. I do know what kratom is. It's in every gas station you go to nowadays. Um, I've never taken it, um, but I do know what it is. I do remember when that was a topic of discussion. And the way that I look at it is, if it's helping people, why put a regulation on something that's helping people? Unless, of course, it's hurting the pharmaceutical donors, right? I mean, let's be honest. That's the only
It
reason.
is.
Same thing with the hemp ban that just got passed this past year. Same thing. Same thing. It was hurting, I don't know, big weed. It was hurting the alcohol lobby. And so they slipped it in. They gave whoever it was that put it in there, I think it was, what's his name? Mitch McConnell. Mitch
Yep, it
McConnell.
was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they slipped him a check and said, "Hey, put this in there," and he put it in there. Yeah, I think that's another big problem, is just a total disconnect from reality with the people who are in office right now. So yeah, if it's helping people, let's do it. I'm all for it. And kind of going back to your last thing we talked about with the holistic alternative medicine, more of a natural approach. I think we should subsidize that for people who are addicted and on the streets. Absolutely, it's going to help them have a normal life. Why not? People, instead of sending billions of dollars a year to foreign governments. There's only 17, I think it's 17 countries in the world that we don't send money to every year. That's unacceptable. While there's kids on the street, young people addicted to drugs, ruining their life, and we could, I don't know, subsidize kratom, maybe give them a better chance at life. Why the hell aren't we doing that? It's not America first.
You just earned yourself an army of new followers with that, by the way. That's awesome.
That was absolutely unreal fact poll right there. That's awesome.
No, it's true, man. It's true. I mean, it doesn't make sense to us as normal people. We're not part of that world where everything's about getting reelected and getting the money to get reelected. And I know that I'm running for Congress, right? So it's kind of iffy for me, right? But no, I'm never going to be part of that world. I'm never going to serve those people. I will always serve the people of this country and not the elites, not the establishment guys, not the donors. I don't give a damn about them. I'm not going to work for them. I'm going to work for people like you guys.
I believe you, Mike. I'm going to
Thanks,
switch
bro.
gears real quick to the Florida citrus industry. Florida Governor candidate James Fishback, your buddy, plans to offer a $1 billion cash reward to any scientist that can create a strand of citrus that is impervious to greening. So, Mike, can Florida's citrus industry still be saved without GMOs, or is this the only way to do it, in your opinion?
Well, in my district, actually, in the city of Groveland, used to be the town of Groveland, but we've had millions of people move in the last 5 years. So now it's the city of Groveland. They actually discovered a tree at one of the farms. It's called the Donaldson tree. And up to this point, it appears to be impervious to greening. They're still doing testing on it, but I do believe that that is an option. I do think that that is somewhere to go. If the question is about the GMOs, I'm not totally sure if we're going to be able to do it without some sort of intervention. But I think that a bigger problem is the land use here in Florida. Most of the land that was historically citrus groves. When I was a kid, you would go outside and early winter, late fall, and your nose would be filled up with citrus blossoms. It was miles and miles at a time of that beautiful smell. And it's just not there anymore. And all that land that was citrus groves has been demolished and burnt, and now there's high density housing units on it. I think that's going to be a bigger issue than anything else, is trying to get the people who have historically been in the industry to buy back into taking that risk, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's a developer who wants to give you $10 million for your 100 acres or whatever it's going to be. I think that's going to be a harder sell for those people. So it's got to be people that are targeted who really, really love that life and really, really are in it for the long haul. Because otherwise, the entire state of Florida is going to get paved over, and they're going to charge you to park. That's going to be the whole thing. So if you don't have an agriculture industry, if you don't have a food industry, how the hell are you going to feed the 20 million people that are going to live there? What's the point?
Great point. And I was not familiar with the Donaldson tree. I'd be curious, I don't expect you to know the answer to this, if these Donaldson tree oranges are for eating or for juicing. Because obviously in California, oranges are for eating. In Florida, oranges are for juicing. And we have no shortage in California of these eating oranges, but the citrus greening has completely destroyed the orange juice industry, which is why all the suppliers are importing drinkable oranges from Brazil. So I'd be curious if Donaldson tree is for drinking or for eating. That is a great tidbit that I'm going to do some research on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. Being in Florida, I'd assume it's probably a juicing variety, but I don't know if it's a Valencia or not. I don't know if it's as good as those.
Amen. So citrus greening, as you know, is a Chinese bacterium that arrived in Florida around 2005 via the Asian citrus psyllid. Lacks federal oversight, and unchecked imports let it spread unchecked, obviously. So given that this is kind of a multinational foreign policy issue and honestly a national security issue, will you fight to deliver justice for the Florida families and farmers whose livelihoods were destroyed by this new Chinese virus?
I think that they made it in the same lap they made COVID in. Yeah, let's hold them accountable for sure. I don't know the levers how we're going to do that, but we're going to do it, damn it. We got to have justice for the people of this state and of this country, and we need our oranges back. Yeah, let's hold those people accountable.
Hell yeah. You don't have to have the answers. You just got to be on the right side. And then
You got to be
you're gonna have a
willing
lot
to
of-
find the answers.
Yes. 100%. I think you are willing. We can move away from oranges. It's a great topic for me.
Okay.
But we'll move on from
Okay.
oranges. Let's do a little foreign policy. you mentioned this earlier. Your primary opponent voted yes to appropriate over $113 billion with a B dollars in emergency funding for Ukraine across fiscal years 2022 and 2023. So, what is your view on foreign aid bills? Should we be spending more or less overseas?
I'd like to spend $0 on foreign aid. The way that I see it, no. So let me tell you a story real quick. This past summer, I had to explain to my daughter why at the intersection we saw a girl that was in her class standing out there with her parents with a coffee cup. That's a hard conversation to have with your kid because I know that kid's parents. I know her dad. I know that he's a hard worker. And I think I said this earlier, until every American citizen is living the American dream, we can't do it with illegals and we can't do it with other governments. If we have to pay our allies to be our friends, they're not our allies. They're escorts. Do you have any friends that you have to pay to be your friends? Because I don't. These countries should be lucky. They should consider themselves blessed to even be associated with us. If our trade isn't good enough for you, if our security guarantees that come along with being an ally of the United States aren't good enough for you, I'm sorry, you can kick it down the road. We don't want you.
To quote the great Oliver Anthony, there's needles in the streets, folks hardly surviving. We have a lot of problems here domestically that we need to take care of before we take all of our tax dollars and send them to oligarchs overseas. It blows my mind. And foreign policy is becoming a nuanced issue now. The international order has changed. We are now the great American empire, and we are imperialist, and it's a multinational, multipolar world. We have our hemisphere, China has their sphere of influence, and Russia has their sphere of influence. So, Mike, do you believe in securing hemispheric sovereignty through Teddy Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy?
I believe in peace through strength. I do. And I think that you'd have to be a damn fool to fuck with the United States of America. Pardon my French, I'm fluent. But I would say that at some point, when we're screwing around with all these little countries, bombing Yemen, dropping bombs on Iran for the benefit of the state of Israel, we have no business doing that. That's not our hemisphere. I personally don't give a damn what happens to Israel. I don't care what happens to Iran, as long as my tax dollars aren't paying for it. But in our hemisphere, yes, we need to maintain that position because it is a different world than it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We're so connected now. You can take a flight anywhere within 20 hours. And in order to maintain our position, which we do want to do, we do want to maintain our position as the world leader, assuming you guys also want that, because I promise you don't want the alternative. We do have to show peace through strength.
Great. I was going to ask you if you think President Trump violated the Constitution by executing the Venezuelan raid without congressional approval, but I think I already know the answer. So I'm going to skip past that one. You can jump in if you want to answer it. But in the same vein, do you think acquiring Greenland is imperative for our national security? And if the answer is yes, if you were President Trump, would you try to make a deal or would you just take it?
No, I probably wouldn't mess with it. I think that we already have, we already have the option to have a base there. We already have the option to make deals for the mineral rights. We don't need to own it. We just need to control it. And those are two different things. Two things can be true at once. We can have a presence there and maintain our strength in the region because it is very tactical. It's incredibly tactically positioned. We can do that without going in and just taking it. We don't have to do that. Let's try to keep as many young Americans from dying as we can. We're a dying breed, man.
We are. I also don't think we would have to lift a finger to take it, and I don't think you should take it. Obviously, when it comes to these colonial expeditions, you want to make sure the people are on your side because you don't want a revolution. You need to be careful when it comes to regime change, and maybe you wouldn't have to regime change in Greenland. The people in Greenland seem to love America from what I've seen, as long as what I see on X isn't complete slop propaganda.
They
And I the natives, the indigenous people of Greenland are only a few thousand people, and the rest of them are these Danish oligarchs that came in fairly recently and have been changing their way of life. And I think it would have been really easy for President Trump to say, we're going to come in, you're going to be a protectorate of the United States or a territory of the United States, maybe even a state. And we're going to give you X percent of all the oil sales. We're going to give you X percent of the precious metals that we mine. And they could all die millionaires. But
Sure.
President Trump chose to swing his dick around and piss people off. And during Davos a few weeks ago, he picked the short end of the stick. He broke the rib cage and took the smaller bone. And I think that's disappointing because of the strategic necessity of Greenland. We're going to have extremely important military bases there. We have the ability to mine there. I mean, I'm not sure if you invest in precious metals.
Yes.
There is a serious supply and demand issue with silver right now. So if you own silver, you're going to make a lot of fucking money. And if we were to secure that and start mining, it would make Americans that invest in precious metals a lot of money. And it would also help us secure the efficacy of the US dollar. So I see all these different reasons that we need it. I see the Iron Dome. We're going to need Greenland to have this Iron Dome that protects us from foreign countries. And then obviously we'll turn off the Iron Dome and let a bunch of fucking jihadis with, onion hats fly in on parachutes and rape and pillage all of our women. But other than that, it should be a pretty good thing to have over our country.
Agreed.
Strategic trade routes for China and Russia that we would be taking over. I just see all these reasons we should have taken it, and I'm disappointed in President Trump. But I think you're probably right.
I think that there's other ways to have done it without, like you said, swinging your dick around. And because we already have the big stick, you don't have to show it over and over and over again. Especially if you got to take a blue pill for it to work, right? No offense to Brett. No offense. But if you're going to say you're going to do something, you have to follow through. You have to do it. I don't like the idea of, I know that it's, I guess, like the art of the deal or something where you have to always keep people guessing, but at some point, put up or shut up. That's how I feel about that.
It's not even that Trump is letting us down. It's that he's over-promising so extremely just to underdeliver. And this might work when you're negotiating with certain people, but when it comes to the approval of the American people, you do this over and over again, and your approval rating is going to tank. And we see today he has I think it was 41% approval rating, which is the lowest of all time for him, according to Rasputin polls. So that's disappointing. I want to move on to AI really quick. I wanted to ask you how you will protect your constituents from the rapid development of AI. What do you have in mind? Because this is something that keeps me up at night, and I'm sure it does for many people in your district.
Yeah, no, it does for me too. We're not going to allow AI data centers to steal our water or to raise the prices on our electricity bills. That's not going to happen. But beyond that, AI can be a great tool, but it can stay a tool. It's not going to be a replacement for American labor or American creativity. We're not going to allow that to happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I will put up the biggest fight you've ever seen, because people need to have a purpose. People need to have something to live for. For a lot of people, that's providing for their family. For a lot of people, it's trying to improve yourself, to improve your situation, to feel like you've accomplished something. And so at the end of the day, no, we're not going to allow that. We're not going to allow the tech billionaire giant people to come in and replace us. It's not going to happen. We're not going to let it happen with H-1B visas. We're not going to let it happen with illegal immigrant labor. We're not going to allow it with artificial intelligence. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, obviously AI is a threat because it'll take our jobs, and these AI data centers will pollute the water, and they'll raise your electric bills. I want to dive into a little more of the why banning AI data centers is important. not sure if you're familiar. There was this internal XAI metric that was leaked in early January. It's called Semantic Contextual Scoring, OHIV3. It's a big mouthful, but essentially, due to a temporary exposure of sensitive information, Grok made it queryable to retrieve data from X's internal moderation system. So that this internal metric, semantic contextual scoring, assigns a social credit score to X accounts based on their speech patterns, anything they deem hateful, anti-Semitic, toxic. It has this algorithm and it spits it out into code and it tells you how much you're being suppressed. And in late 2025, Elon Musk struck a deal with the Pentagon to integrate XAI with the Pentagon's internal IT systems. So this opened the door for the government to implement a social credit score system on civilians by way of the Department of War. And I think the only political solutions are banning AI data centers, but also creating an AI Bill of Rights. Anything that you ask Grok, anything that you type in that search bar, anything that you post, anything that you like, follow, retweet, gets collected. I'm not sure if you're familiar with active listening. It's this marketing technique. You ever talking to your buddy and you're talking about Pop-Tarts and you look at your phone and you have a Pop-Tarts ad. Your phone's always listening to you. When you click, yes, I agree to the terms of X, you're agreeing to active listening. And XAI internally, whether or not it shares it with you, is collecting every word that you're saying near your phone. So it's collecting this profile on you and giving you a social credit score based on your speech, based on your personal patterns. And this can be used against us. So I think we need to ban AI data centers for that reason. And I think we need to create an AI Bill of Rights to protect people from AI. And I'm not sure if you would agree with that or not, but what are your thoughts on the AI arms race? Because if we steel man this argument, there's some people that argue that if we don't build AI data centers, China will surpass us in AI development. And that's almost like the nuclear arms race with Russia a few decades ago. Do you think that's a risk that we're willing to take?
Well, all I know is I don't want it in Florida. And to your point about the AI Bill of Rights, that is imperative because the people come first. What are some things that you think would go in that Bill of Rights, if you don't mind me asking?
Conversations that are had online should be treated like personal conversations that are had offline. Phone calls, texts, direct messages, anything that is not intended for a public audience should not be shared with the public audience. Your activities on your phone that are not meant to be publicly shared, your search history, for some people, the porn they watch, I don't watch porn because I'm not a fucking goon. I'm not a loser. I'm not a homosexual. I'm not a liberal. I don't watch porn. But millions and millions of Americans do. And now that is being collected. I'm sure everyone has watched it. Now everyone knows what you watch porn. Like you're running for office. You're one of the first Gen Zs to ever run for office. When 20 years from now, when our generation's running the world, the powers that be and all of their cloud systems will have our entire lives available to use against us. Anything you've ever done your entire life, like I grew up with a phone, is now available. Yeah. And this raises the question, like, it's terrifying, but I think it's going to get to the point where everyone is going to be cancelable, so you can no longer cancel. Everyone can be punished for their online activity. So it's going to get to the point where, what are they going to do about it? How do you feel about that?
No, you're absolutely right, man. It is terrifying, especially for, people like us, our generation. We grew up right at the time that the digital age was really coming to be. And so I got a Facebook when I was like 12 years old. I don't know what my parents were thinking. Sometimes I see like, okay, 15 years or 10 years ago, you posted this. And it's like, oh my God, like, what was I thinking? Like, what else did I say that was just totally insane? Like, I was a kid and I've already seen it happen with people where the things that they post online get held against them. even if it is 10, 15 years. So it really is frightening, not just for that, but they know everything about you. They know exactly who you are and how you think just based on your data. And then they sell it to advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
So your data is probably one of the most profitable things in the world right now. Our data collectively. I think that could be another thing that goes into the Bill of Rights is if you do choose to allow that, what was it called? The data collection? What did you call it?
Active listening.
Active listening. Okay. So if you do select to allow that on your phone, I don't know why anyone should. You should be compensated for that. And you're giving them a product that they've been stealing from you for your entire life. Pay up.
Amen. I want to play a quick game with you, Mike. I'm going to say a person's name, and I want you to respond with one word that you think best describes them. How's that sound?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. I need you on your A game here. We're going to clip the shit
All
out
right.
of this. All right. Ron DeSantis.
Goat.
James Fishback.
Future.
That was my second pick. It was either Zeitgeist or Future. I think Future is awesome. He is definitely the future of the Republican Party, and that was in Tucker Carlson's newsletter this week. So I think you're on the right track there. How about Byron Donalds?
Slob.
Randy Fine.
Slob. Traitor.
Traitor, good one. Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Patriot.
Would you accept an endorsement from Nicholas J. Fuentes?
I would. I'd be happy to have him.
Donald Trump.
President.
Would you accept an endorsement from the president?
I'd take it. Yeah. He won't give it to me, but I'd be happy to have it.
Awesome. Do you have any people, Chet? I just went through my list.
Alex Jones.
Prophet.
That's all from me,
Perfect answer.
brother.
Perfect answer. All right, I got a final question.
Sure.
So after you win the general election, so I'm skipping past the primary. After you win the general election, will you commit to hiring Gen Z staffers to your office at the House of Representatives?
Yeah, absolutely, man. 100%. 100%.
And will you be calling me and Chet for first round interviews?
If you guys want it, you're going to be the first ones to get interviewed. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Well, Mike, as we head into the primary elections, what is your message, your parting message to members of the Patriot media who have not reached out to you to have you on their show?
I would say that I think we had a good conversation. And I think that if they want to be part of what's going to happen here going forward with this broader movement, they need to open up their eyes and they need to really understand what we're fighting for. Because if you believe in it, like I do and like you guys do, you have to look at the whole picture. And there's a lot of people right now who are actively fighting. There's also a lot of people who are waiting for someone to come save them still. And you can't keep waiting. Time is now.
Time is now. Mike, how can our audience support you?
They can give me all of their money that they have left over after they buy their healthy foods. My website is flmike.com. There's a little bar right there. Donate and join the movement. That's my campaign website. It's got my platform. It's got my events on there. You have my contact information. You can also, if you go back to the donate, you don't have to, but it's got WinRed and Anadot, 2 different ways to donate. But really beyond that, just tell your friends. Money doesn't buy votes, people do. So at the end of the day, I would much rather have reach. I would much rather have my voice heard. I would much rather have my platform seen than I would $1. But at the end of the day, every dollar helps, right?
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. I thought this was a phenomenal interview, and I'm really excited to share this with our audience. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mike.
you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, Mike. Much respect, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Mike Wilnau, ladies and gentlemen. A grassroots campaign isn't one with money. It's one with social media impressions. Be sure to support Mike Wilnau's campaign by sharing this interview with your entire network. Send it to all your favorite Patriot podcasters and live streamers. Start the chain reaction. Be the spark that sends Mike Wilnau to Congress. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support our show, please shop at thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. That is thealexjonesstore.com/Nimrod. Be sure to make a purchase at this link to keep the Nimrods on air. The only way to address the problem is through revolution. The only answer to 1984 is 1776. The globalists picked a fight, and they got one. The people will prevail. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.